Welcome back to this channel. It's your resident internet psychic medium, spiritual advisor, Mystic Rain, and today we have a juicy question. But before we get into that, I've got some announcements to make. So, a couple of announcements. For those of you that were interested in coming to hang out with me in Atlanta, if you guys live out here or want to come hang out with me out here, we're doing a tarot workshop in February 17th to be exact, okay? And if you would like to sign up for that and book your spot, the link to that is in the description box below. I am also now back to doing consultations. It has been well over a year since I have done them, and people have been asking about them, and so now I'm back to doing them. And so if you would like to book a session with me, again, the link for that is in the description box below. These consultations are not your run-of-the-mill tarot reading sessions, right? Now, will tarot be included? Yeah, possibly, probably. I would say most likely. But the point of the session is that you need clarity. You need understanding. You need direction. You need guidance. And you feel like, oh my God, I'm in the stage of life right now where I need a spiritual advisor. What do I do, right? We are going to get you from point A to point B. That is the purpose of those consultations. Now, will different modalities be incorporated into the consultation, like a tarot, potentially mediumship, if you have a loved one that has something that they would like to say to you? Yes, absolutely. Will your guidance be driven by psychic, intuitive insights? It will be. But the point of the consultation is to get you from where you are to where you're trying to go. It is not a standard run-of-the-mill tarot reading. It's supposed to be something that is transformative for your life, okay? So if you are someone where you feel like you're ready for healing, you're ready for clarity, you're ready for understanding of knowing why certain things in your life are the way they are or happen the way they happened, then that is the session for you, okay? Also, astrology reports are back. Those were a hit last time I did them. Again, it was over a year ago, but you guys really liked it. So we are bringing back birth chart and natal reports for those of you that are interested in that. Also, going into 2024, we also are going to be doing 2024 year forecasts. This is a personalized horoscope to just you, yourself, and you. Where it will give you literally the energies from month to month to month. Some months will have energies that are broken out into multiple weeks that'll let you know what's going on in the cosmos that's specifically related to you and the energies that you're actually going to be working with, okay? If that's something you're interested in, description box below. There's also a bundled option for people that actually wanted to do both where it's discounted too. So if that's something that you were interested in, go ahead and check that out. So now, to the question. So Andy Viggs08 said, I never thought to discern where insights come from. I must admit, I tend to lump the universe, divine, higher self into one entity. Would be curious to hear your thoughts, suggestions on how one could go about taking the time to figure out where their information is coming from. Could you speak to how one can discern if their downloads, insights are coming from an ancestor, the divine, or the collective consciousness? Are these separate things? Appreciate your nuggets of wisdom. So for those of you that don't know, I did make a video in which I said that, feel free to vet your practitioners and vet where the messages that your practitioners are sharing with you are actually coming from. That you can ask them, who are they actually talking to and where you're getting your downloads? Like, where is this information coming from? And where that actually comes from, by the way, is because somebody asked me. And it was a very interesting conversation. It was actually me. I was in a group with it was a room full of psychics because, okay, just quickly backing up, this is actually like my community, like in real life. Like I do hang out with psychics like in real life, right? And so there was an event and there was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us psychics just hanging out, right? One of them wasn't a psychic and one of them was also very highly skeptical, right? But open, but very skeptical in terms of how it works. And he very honestly was like, well, who are you talking to, right? And so that is actually where that comes from. Knowing that, like, oh, we actually should be able to answer that question for this person. And what that moment revealed to me was that all the psychics in the room had a different answer for where they were getting their information from, because they were pulling messages from different sources. And the reason for that is because, like, some psychics, for example, are channelers. They channel information, but not all of them do. Not all of them channel. And then some psychics channel from different sources, right? So for example, my information can come from sort of the oversoul, which I call collective consciousness, the collective knowing, that sort of beautiful honeypot that exists. Oh my God, I got flour in my nail. That beautiful, that beautiful honeypot. I promise you, it's just flour, because the internet's crazy, okay? Okay, but for me, my information comes from, like, what I call, like, the honeypot of knowledge, which is what I consider the collective consciousness, which is the information that all of us are privy to due to all of us being one, right? So information can come from there. There is also information that I can pull that can come from spirit guides. Sometimes the guides are my own guides that are talking to me. Now, who are my guides? I have a team of guides. Some of my guides act as spokespeople. Some of them don't. Some of them never speak at all. When my guides speak to me, they can either come to me and talk to me in a one-on-one, so it's information coming from one of them, or sometimes they present themselves as a spokesperson for the group as a whole. Right? And so sometimes the message is coming from the group, right? Sometimes I'm talking to your guide. And depending on how your guides are set up will determine how that information is coming to me too. Sometimes people have one guide. I may only be talking to one. Sometimes people have two. I may be talking to two. Sometimes people have a group. I may be talking to the group, right? So that could depend. I also have ancestors. Now, I've got a team of them. There is a substantial amount of them. They all have different roles, right? Now, there is, like, a group that kind of looks somewhat similar to what we would consider to be an army. Their job is to protect. And sometimes they show up with when information is being conveyed to me, sometimes they show up and that's how they let me know that it's really important information that I may need to listen to. However, the ancestors that I have whose job is solely is to protect, they don't actually talk, right? I have a couple of main ancestors and then one main ancestor who delivers all the information. My main ancestor is my mother. She's the one that delivers all the information. And then occasionally, the other ancestor that talks is my sister and then my grandmother. They are immediate ancestors that I knew in this lifetime, ancestors that I trust. And so they talk on behalf of the ancestral group as a whole, because I don't remember in this lifetime the people that are in the ancestral group. Now, there have been times where an ancestor from the ancestral group has tried to talk to me, but on account of the fact that I'm like, who are you? They have realized that that's not necessarily the most efficient way to deliver messages. And so typically what happens is that my mom will do it. When my mom is communicating to me, she will let me know whether or not she is communicating a message from the ancestors as a whole, or whether or not she's talking to me as mother and daughter, right? So that's one area I get them from. Another area I get them from is a galactic council. I do have what people would call aliens. I don't call them that. I think it's kind of rude. I call them galactic beings. I do have a galactic council that I channel in from time to time, right? I can also occasionally channel animals. I can also occasionally channel the information that's sitting in environments, rooms, buildings. And then that information in terms of the where the messages are coming from there is I'm reading the energy itself. So let's say I'm channeling the energy in a building. It's the equivalent of you walking into a room and going, ooh, what happened here? Did two people get into a fight? It's kind of like that. It's when you know how to read a room, right? Reading the energy. So there's not necessarily an entity in there or anything like that. It's just being able to read an energy that people left behind in a room, right? Yes. And then, dead people. if I choose to channel that, if I feel like working with my mediumship at the moment. So I can get my messages from an array of different places, right? Some people are channeling simply from what they call God, the universe, right? That's where they're getting their information from. It's sort of like a collective knowing that their information is coming from, right? Some people get their information strictly from spirit guides, right? Some people work that way. And their spirit guides sometimes work kind of like a mediator type of figure, and is helping them with the sort of translation of the messages that are coming through. Everybody is different. Not one person gets the messages the same way. Not one person likes to receive the messages the same way. Okay? So now, how do you know? Like, how do you figure out where it's coming from? All you have to do is simply ask. You can say, where did this come from? That was how I figured out who my people were, who was talking, who wasn't talking, and then where it was coming from. It was simply by asking, who is you? What was this? What is this? What's the setup? Right? Now, here's the thing. I'm from Queens. You're not allowed to just pop up in my household whenever you feel like popping up in my household. I don't take kindly to new spirits. I don't know you. Straight up. So in my practice over the years, they have learned to identify themselves. They do what I call a spiritual knock, and I very much say, who are you? And that is how I've learned to identify what messages are coming from who, right? So if you feel like you work with your guide, but you don't necessarily know or feel like you have a very sort of tight connection with your guide, or maybe you don't know the guide's name, maybe you don't know what they look like, you just know that you have a guide, ask them who they are. Who are you, right? And if you feel comfortable with your guide, you can even say, you can give them permission on how to communicate with you. And so in the beginning of my journey, when it came to my guide, I gave them permission to come to me when I was in a meditative state. So whenever I was actively sitting down, meditating, please come to me. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And so I also said that they were allowed to come visit me in my dreams as well, right? And so then that was how I was able to meet my guide. My main guide's name, his name is Jeremy. He's standing right there. If anyone can see him, he is grinning and he is also waving very jubilantly right now. He is my main guide. He's been my main guide from what I understand since I was a child. I remember as a child having a lot of dreams with him in it. It wasn't until I became an adult and I sort of moved into this way of life where I realized that that guy that was in my dream wasn't a guy that was in my dream. That was like my guide, my actual spirit guide. He's the main guide. Now, he's not necessarily always the working guide because it actually gets bigger, right? People don't know that. I have teams of spirit guides, and they come in and they pop in and out for different reasons. So one thing that people don't know is that sometimes you get assigned new guides for different things. The reason why you get assigned new guides for different things is because different guides have different areas of expertise. Why do they have different areas of expertise? Guides used to be incarnate. Spirit guides used to have like a human life, right? So if you are let's say you're a being, but you're a being on a different planet, and you have something that we would consider to be a guide over here, that guide for you there would have been incarnate in whatever planet that you were in, right? Spirit guides have a lot of knowledge, information, and wisdom that they have learned throughout their lifetimes. And so they serve as guides. When I'm not incarnate, I also have a tendency to serve as guides because from what I was told, I find humans fascinating. But guides, because of that, have different areas of expertise. For women, for example, a lot of women will get assigned new guides when they get pregnant or right before birth because there are actually motherhood guides. There are guides typically that present as female in terms of how they portray themselves. They're not actually male or female because, they're not human, right? But in how they portray themselves. And these women could have been midwives or doulas or things in past lives, right? Nurses. And so they may serve as a guide as you are ushering in new life, right? And guiding them through the portal into this life. And so Jeremy, he is my main guide, but he's not necessarily always the guide that's always talking because I may be in a stage of life where it requires a different set of expertise. And because it requires a different set of expertise, it may not be his expertise. And so I may also get assigned new guys as well. And when you get assigned, sometimes they tag each other out. Sometimes one will say they'll just sort of take a background role to let the new ones do what they're doing. For example, I've also just recently was assigned 2 new guides for this next stage of life, because Lord have mercy, am I going through it? So for spirit guides, you would simply ask them to come to you in meditation, or you would ask them to come to you in your dream and asleep, and you would simply ask them to reveal themselves to you. What do they look like? You can ask them what they look like, and you can be really specific. What color is your hair? What is your build? What color are your eyes? Ask them how are they presenting themselves to you, and ask them what their name is. What would they like to be called, right? That way you can form a relationship with them. It's really easy for me to contact my spirit guide because I just yell out, Jeremy. And he goes, yes, right? So that's one way. If you're working with angelic beings, again, it kind of functions the same way. Angelic beings have a lot of different coloring, different colors that are attached to them. So if you feel like you have an angelic guide or like an archangel maybe that you're working with, you can clarify that through coloring to see what colors that you're sort of seeing in your periphery, in your eyesight, colors that are popping up for you a lot, or colors that you are resonating with a lot. If you're working with your ancestors have a tendency to be easiest to identify because you tend to know them. And so when you're dealing with an immediate ancestor, which is someone that I consider to be someone that you knew in this lifetime who passed away, you know them. They're a lot easier to identify. It's very easy to identify mom and grandma when they come to you versus identifying maybe an ancestor from 3, 4, 5 lifetimes ago. It's going to be a lot more difficult to identify them. Now, one thing that I've noticed when it comes to people's ancestors is that ancestors have a tendency to be more protective very naturally because you're one of theirs. And so if you feel like a very protective energy, then that can be a tip off that that's who you're talking to. But ancestors like for you to remember them. So if you ask them who are you, and they respond, they're very likely to be like, oh, thank God. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I've been waiting to talk to you for forever, right? Because it's been a long time coming. It's been a really long relationship, right? And then if you're trying to figure out if you're also just talking to God or getting your communications from God, it'll come to you more so in a sense of a really deep spiritual knowing that that's what it is, right? Because it's not necessarily a particular entity that's talking to you. It'll be a very deep spiritual, it'll feel very calm, very peaceful, very safe. It'll come to you in a very deep spiritual knowing that, okay, this is God / universe / higher power, right? Then you'll know that that's that. But the way you do it is you really just ask. Now, for those of you that are thinking about a galactic council, how do I know if I'm talking to them? Galactic beings introduce themselves. They and they have a tendency to be more formal than we are, or at least more formal than we would think. They have a tendency to be very, there's a businessy, professionally kind of vibe that they carry, where they let you know, like, hi, I am so-and-so. My job is so-and-so. I'm from so-and-so type of feeling. So if you're channeling a galactic being, they would have introduced themselves to you first as said galactic being. Hi, I am from, and this is my job or my mission or my intention or something like that. Because galactic beings, the majority of them, not all of them have suits, as in like a flesh suit. Some galactic beings do communicate sort of as a form of consciousness. This video is getting so convoluted. But for the most part, a lot of them are incarnate wherever they are. Their incarnations just don't necessarily look like our incarnations. And so it's similar to meeting like a colleague, how like someone would like shake your hand and be like, hi, I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you. They kind of have that sort of vibe, right? And so it's, hi, I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you kind of vibe. And so if you get that, then you would know if they're galactic. But a galactic channeling is very different. It has a very different feeling than channeling from like the divine or a spirit guide or, an ancestor. A galactic channel, it doesn't necessarily feel so heavily spiritual. It feels more businessy because, again, they're incarnate, if that makes sense, right? So if you want to know where you're getting your information from, ask. Who are you? Who is you? Why are you up in my house? I don't like that. I don't know. Say what you say. It's not my business. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. As always, if you like what you see, please subscribe to this channel. Check out that description box. There's a lot of really good things in there. And if I don't see you again, I'll see you next lifetime.